So with the butthole sunning, getting sun all over your body is one of the healthiest things. Biohack is another marketing gimmick, right? Mm-hmm. There's no hacking, there's sleep. In the last 15 years, I've been off caffeine 3 or 4 times for 2 or 3 years at a time. It's halfway down my esophagus and I puked again, and it went into my nose and the DMT came out of my eyes. I didn't want to stop, and so I peed in a cup and I drank it, and I was like, that's not that bad. So if you're gonna do your addictive substances, enjoy the fuck out of it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today we have the certified health nut in the house, Troy Casey, author of RippedAt50. And really, man, just an incredible life story that you have. You've done a ton in your life. I've watched a lot of your content, a lot of awesome content. And man, I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Austin.
Yeah. So here you are, Ripped@50. We were talking a bit before the show. When did you write that book?
I wrote that book, I would say, starting at about 49, and I finished it when I was 53. And so it was a bit of a process.
Yeah.
And so, including the design and the cover and all that stuff. And so we launched it when I was 53.
Pretty cool, to hear your story. I've listened to a bunch of your content. You were basically homeless at 14. Correct me if I'm wrong. And, going from homeless to being incarcerated in your teenage years to then, growing up, you became eventually, I believe, a model in Milan. Mm-hmm. Very interesting kind of turn of events, I feel like. And then leaving that world to then kind of pursue, and I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of your story here, but then getting into, the health and wellness arena, writing a book, obviously. I mean, talk about a heck of a journey.
Yeah, life's a trip. And so, I was in the modeling world for about 7 years professionally, and that's what gave me the impetus to really take care of myself, look and feel good in front of the camera. And so I got into fasting, herbal medicine, internal purification, juicing. It was a way to rejuvenate my body. I was partying pretty hard at the time as well, and I knew nothing about nutrition, and I was bloating, and so that was affecting me going out on castings, my work as a model. I ended up doing 4 Versace campaigns, so I progressed pretty well with that industry. But the industry was it was soulless. It a lot of there's politics in every business, but these were kind of weird politics, and a lot of sexual innuendos. And I'm not a homosexual, so I didn't appreciate people coming on to me, especially if I said I'm not interested in stuff like that. So that. After a while, really wore on me. Plus, those were the same people that were the gatekeepers. So that got underneath my skin, and then I just partied because alcohol and drugs and that lifestyle was readily available. I think the mafia owned all the clubs in Milan when I lived in Milan, and they also owned the modeling agencies, and the modeling agencies took 50%. Of your money, and so I thought that was interesting. And so if you're not modeling, then you're out partying, and these nightclubs, these shishi nightclubs in Europe were quite expensive back in the day, expensive entry fee and then expensive drinks, and so it was a business. And I got caught up in the partying aspect of it, and knowing that my soul wasn't really turned on to what I was doing, and soul robbing. And so that affected me. After a while, I just got sick of it, and then moved on. But it was great to travel and work with different currencies and different cultures and different languages. It was the best education of my life. And subsequently, I got into natural medicine from that. Fasting, healing. Really taking care of myself, at the same time burning the candle at both ends. When I moved to Miami, I sobered up for a couple of years and delved deeper into the health aspect, and waking up early and always exercising. And then I had a lot of success at one time, and I've heard it said that idle hands are the devil's work. And so I would work 5, 6, 7 times a year, maybe more, maybe less. And, I'd have enough money, and then I'd just have all this time on my hands. And and that's when I just started partying more. And so I got caught up in that. And when I moved to LA to start an acting career, I knew I couldn't do that as a drunk. So I sobered up, and I continued my natural medicine studies. I got into Vipassana meditation, 10-day courses of silence. And I did about 11 of those. That helped sober me up. And then I was working with Maori healers from New Zealand. And then about 6 or 7 years into living in LA, I got hip to an herbal company, and I started working down there in the Amazon rainforest. And then I started drinking ayahuasca. And each one of those were kind of spiritual awakenings, the Vipassana meditation, working with Maori indigenous healers from New Zealand, and the ayahuasca. And so altogether, it's about 33 years of studies and application. And since then, I've worked at the Czech Institute as well with the great Paul Czech. He's the preeminent strength training coach in the world. And and so life's been pretty awesome, and we're still trucking along here in 2023.
Heck of a journey, man. And now, I mean, you're doing a lot now. I feel like I'm seeing you more and more on, social media and everything like that. You're making more content, I can tell. And, I'm excited to see where you obviously take that. I'm really fascinated by your journey though, too, like going from that world to then partying and drinking and alcohol and all that. And then, transitioning, I've been listening to a lot of Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure you are.
Yes.
And I was listening to the other night, an episode, Andrew Huberman, on alcohol and the effects of alcohol, and, similar to you, I've actually in my like early 20s, I struggled with just alcohol and partying and, that whole thing. And then now I'm obviously a lot younger, but like I'm really getting into the world of health and like, not drinking as much or at all, and what are your thoughts? You talk about, I mean, you mentioned, being a drunk, you couldn't go into the world of acting and do that. But I mean, how is that affecting your health and your mental state?
Well, I mean, liver, alcohol and what it does to your liver, it's well known. You can get cirrhosis of the liver, especially the way I can drink, right? I'm Irish. I got an iron liver, and I would just drink everyone underneath the table, scotch and Heinekens, and I'd stay up all night drinking, especially in Miami when alcohol was free and cocaine was dirt cheap. And so I mean, I burnt the candle at both ends for a very long time. And so alcohol dries you out. And it would make me bloat. I would, I'd be thin, but I would have, you could see it in my lymph, right, underneath my chin and stuff. And so it's just not healthy long term. I think you can really do it in your 20s. I think it was about 30 is when I started to sober up. Maybe 28 or so was the first time. By the time I was 33, I'd completely sobered up and just stopped drinking altogether. And I think you can get away with it in your 20s. But again, at the level I was partying, it was pretty intense, and the addiction was very strong. And so definitely you're up for cirrhosis of the liver. You're not sleeping properly. I realize now at 57 how important my sleep is. If I don't feel well, if I get a good night's sleep, I'm ready to go right away. And I've had some challenges with sleep recently from stress and other things that were going on in my life. And not sleeping is very detrimental, especially as you get older. And so, alcohol. If you're gonna drink, I recommend drinking like tequila. Some things that are pure. There's more things that are pure than others, and there's a lot of solvents that they use to make alcohol and stuff. So you're gonna have to go with super high end, and then try and limit it if you're gonna do it at all. But I choose not to do alcohol at all right
anymore.
No.
And how long have you been completely sober for, would you say?
Well, completely sober. Well, for this past year, I would say I started smoking a little pot and vaporizing tobacco during the pandemic, and I got a little carried away with that. I have an addictive personality, and I prefer to stay sober as much as possible. It helps me just be clear, and it's just I like to be balanced in general, and so sober with alcohol since 2016 at least. There was a time in my life where I didn't drink at all for about 8 years, and then I was like, oh, I don't have a problem anymore. Let me just have one glass of wine, some organic wine or something like that with dinner, and I drink occasionally, right? Mm-hmm. Once a month, maybe have a glass. And then about once a year, because I gave myself the license to do that, about once a year, I would find myself getting completely fucked up.
Yeah.
And I got a DUI in 2016 doing that. And then I was 50 at the time, and I had 2 children, and that caused a lot of stress and a lot of turmoil in my family. And so I put it all in the book. I just did the math. It's not worth it for me. I have too much to risk. And so I just let it go.
Sure.
And yeah, I prefer to drink 0 right now.
Well, I'm really fascinated actually, and I'll tell you why. I guess I'll ask you a question. Do you think that entrepreneurs, obviously I've had a lot of entrepreneurs on the show too, right? And I've had a lot of successful people on the show and people that, have made a lot of money. A lot of them at one point or another lost everything. I noticed a common theme where successful people typically at some point in their story, they can tell you about a time where they made a bunch, lost it all, and then made that comeback, right? Almost every time you hear that. But my question for you is that, do you think that entrepreneurs are more prone to what you call the addictive personality? Like, does it take somebody with that addictive, you talk about having an addictive personality to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I think the propensity to have addiction as an entrepreneur, a high-stress job, more time on your hands. I mean, my main driver for being an entrepreneur is to have the lifestyle, the healthy lifestyle, to go to the gym when I want, to eat when I want, to get good sleep, to spend inordinate amount of time with my children, to ride my bicycle all day long, just do what I want when I want. That's my main driver. And so, but when it comes to business, and like I said, I had some sleepless nights this year, and so the stress is there. And the stress is there. Probably have money, connections. It's probably easy to get drugs, alcohol, maybe going out, social. I know you're in the real estate market, and I know that's very social. You find yourself out at dinner, at the bar, meeting for drinks, et cetera. And so the potential and the possibility is there. And anytime you get a high stress job, you're going to, the way I see it, I call it self-medicating. People are just going to self-medicate, and we're always self-medicating, whether that's going to the gym and increasing your serotonin, dopamine, your endocannabinoids, or whether that's, hanging out with your children. These are very important things. De-stressing the body can be self-medication. And then there's the easy ones, right? There's drugs, there's medical drugs. There's illicit drugs. There is, even caffeine is a narcotic, and we can abuse caffeine as well. And do entrepreneurs run more of a risk for addiction?
That, and does it take a person with an addictive personality to be an entrepreneur? Like you talk about, like during the pandemic, right? You mentioned that a minute ago. Smoking a little bit of weed, a little tobacco, right? Like having just in general kind of this addictive personality. The reason that I ask is I can relate to you.
Yeah.
Like I'm somebody who, I have a very addictive personality. I could get addicted to just about anything. I mean, it'd be very easy for me to get addicted to I've had addictions to caffeine before. I've had addictions to all kinds of stuff, right? And some of them can be good, to your point, right? Like I could get addicted to the gym, but I could also go the other way and very easily, I feel like more easily than the average person, get addicted to bad stuff. I don't know if you know this, but the majority of the views that we get are from people that are not subscribed. So do me a huge favor and subscribe if you like the podcast so far. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's just go ahead and get back to the interview. That same set of hardwiring, I guess, is also what makes me a phenomenal entrepreneur.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's a drive, there's an energy, there's a je ne sais quoi about entrepreneurs. We're going to do things differently. We're not just going to wait in line and wait for it to happen or just get a regular job. And I think that energy has the potential for addiction, but you reverse the question, right? And I think making money, being successful, can be an addictive element. And that's why I see with entrepreneurs, and definitely in my work, especially with older guys, I recommend keeping everything in a good mindset as far as stress and how your hormones work, because we can burn out completely, whether it's with the caffeine or staying up late or working too much. A lot of successful guys that get into their old age or they get sick, and then they realize, oh, it was my family that was more important than anything. Like, don't get to that point, and don't get to the point where you hustle, and then 50, that's young right now. 50, even 60, you have a heart attack, stroke, something that sidelines you. I mean, that stuff's real, right? We see how important cardiovascular health is. And so bake this stuff into your lifestyle now. I think you're very smart at 28. And you shared with me you had some Adderall in the past as well. And so, we really have to check in with our pharmaceutical drug usages. And I see, especially in Scottsdale, people are shooting steroids, right? Everybody's on TRT, they're on HGH, and they're doing this younger and younger right now. And there's always a price to pay. Medical drugs have side effects. Side effects is a marketing gimmick. There is no side effect. They're toxic effects on the human body. And you're basically, signing checks that are going to be cashed later. And so Arnold just had a good movie out on Netflix, and probably most people don't realize this, or they don't know the story, because I didn't know the story, but he had major heart surgery in his 50s.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And so did you see the special?
I saw it come out, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, so and he built a career. Not that those drugs aren't, beneficial. And like I said, I've done plenty of drugs and alcohol over my life. These are learning lessons. You're either living or learning, as one of my mentors taught me. And so, but let's not deceive ourselves, right? Those checks will get cashed eventually, especially when you're playing around with your hormones. If you don't have those drugs, then your body can't manufacture the drugs on its own, those endogenous hormones, testosterone, melatonin, serotonin, all this stuff. That's why you want to stay as balanced as possible. I also, spend a lot of time researching nutrition, and nutrition is so important, mainly because the minerals, and we are electromagnetic beings, and that's how the conductivity goes through our cellular structure. It's how our cells communicate. And so, and you see what happened to the soil, and the soil's been depleted. Then you've got all these other additives, and these things are affecting people's biochemistry and their ability to really live in a peaceful state, right? In a harmonious, peaceful state. And then that's where the self-medication comes in, whether it is pharmaceutical drugs, whether it is, illicit drugs or alcohol. There's plenty of things that are socially acceptable. A lot of people take Advil and ibuprofen. These things are terrible for the gut lining. And it's just like, you get a pain, take a pill. And so I like to bake my whole lifestyle around feeling good as much as possible. And then I can be of service to other people. I can feel good about myself and really have that energy, that vitality of something to give. Sure. I think the Bible says, your cup filleth over.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's important to be mindful towards this direction, and that is no license to be neurotic. Is also what I teach my clients. Right, neurosis is a mental disorder, so we can't always be like, oh, what about this and what about that toxin, It's like, get the basics, and that's what my book is about. It has powerful stories in it, but there's 9 pillars of health: sleep, nutrition, water. Get the basics down: movement, breathing, thinking, how the mind works. Get the basics down, and then add to that each day. Stay balanced. I have a checklist for people that follow my work. They can put it up on their refrigerator, and it's just a checklist on: are you mindful of these elements each day? Did you move your body? The purpose of movement is to move the lymphatic fluids, right? That is the purpose. That doesn't mean you have to go lift weights. You can go for a walk. You can go for a bike ride. And so taking all this knowledge and mechanisms to stay healthy and then stay balanced throughout that, right? And sometimes you got to go out of balance. That's where us entrepreneurs come in, right? We ride the edge. And so ride the edge of performance, excitement, right? And then, but you want to stay as balanced as possible, because what goes up must come down, whether that's with losing your money as well. Because sometimes we want that ride, right? It's that excitement. And so I think Dostoevsky has a quote about, human beings, they don't want utopia. If you give them utopia, they're going to create drama. And so
I like that one. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned caffeine. I'd love to know your thought. I correct me if I'm wrong. Did I read a post of yours a while back that said that you no longer consume caffeine?
Yeah. Currently, like I said, I like to stay as sober as possible. So I like to be off caffeine. I like to be off tobacco. I like to be off weed, alcohol, porn, and sugar. I just got hip to sugar because I've never been a sugar Nazi. I've always been more like chemicals, read what's in the in your food. And sugar obviously affects the brain centers, just like heroin and cocaine, as far as its addiction. I just don't consume a lot of sugar and got off sugar many years ago. However, I read a post the other day, and it was from a good source, and it says, try not to eat more than 8 grams of sugar. And so I went about my day, and I was like, whoa, I got like 100. And that's like my average. And I was like, whoa, because you have a acai smoothie, and that is, I think, 50 grams of sugar. And then I like A2 ice cream, grass-fed ice cream. And no, I went over 100. I was like, okay, let me reel that in and, get the glucose out of my muscles. I feel much better off of sugar as well. I'm just not there as of right this second. But I am off caffeine. I got off that about 2 or 3 months ago, and I prefer to stay off of it. I did a lot of research. I burnt out when my kids came, and I was editing videos, so I would have been early 40s, and I was editing videos and maybe doing email late at night as a young entrepreneur. I was in the modeling industry, and then I was an actor, and I was making a lot of money doing television commercials. And then the internet popped up, and then I started editing videos. And I mean, I would put out a video once every 3 months back in the day. And so I was doing a lot of digital communications and digital work after my son went to bed, and I had more time. And I burnt out, and I started studying with Paul Chek and circadian rhythms, and I realized, like, don't mess with your sleep. And so I started, 10 o'clock became my bedtime right about then. And I started really paying attention to that. And that allowed me to really get a handle on it. And so the caffeine messes with it. And then I also read a lot of information about the caffeine messing with the circadian rhythms. So then I got off caffeine. So in the last 15 years, my son's 16 now. In the last 15 years, I've been off caffeine, I would say 3 or 4 times, and for 2 or 3 years at a time.
Wow.
And then you have that one espresso, man. You're like, wow, this is the greatest invention of mankind. And then I'm like back on the train. And so I prefer to be off of it. What am I doing? I'm doing a decaf cappuccino now, and that kind of satiates
tricks your brain.
That kind of hot beverage kind of thing. And I don't want to build a habit on that and then cross over either. And so I've been limiting it. But yeah, I prefer to stay off caffeine. I stay more balanced. Throughout the day, my nervous system, I really feel my nervous system. The older you get, and, again, partied when I was younger. The older I get, I can feel my nervous system. And so I like to keep my whole lifestyle is based around, staying pretty calm, because I can be pretty animated. I can be really animated, actually.
Is it difficult to quit a habit like that? Like for, like when you go off of caffeine, I mean, how do you, I'd imagine you're just like kind of a cold turkey kind of guy, right? You're not one to wean off. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I think AA or 12-step programs, what do they say? When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
I kind of let it go up to that level. And I got that hardcore addictive personality. So it's kind of like you got to burn out on the stuff that's, not doing you any good anyways. You gotta do it to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And
God, I'm just like you.
I'm
that way. I'll do something until I almost hate myself for doing it. And then I'll just overnight, I just completely quit everything.
Yeah.
And
then bake some lifestyle factors around there. Up the nutrition, do a fast. I like doing fast, juice cleanse, get the nutrition flooding into the body, so you start feeling good immediately, as opposed to going through endless crashes and withdrawals. But yeah, I mean, I was going to say something else, but
it'll come to you.
Yeah, that worked. That works for me. When I'm sick and tired. Oh, this is what I was going to say. If you're doing it, enjoy the fuck out of it. If you beat yourself up, you're just going to create more neurosis, and then you're going to just self-medicate more. So if you're going to do your addictive substances, enjoy the fuck out of it, right? Give yourself permission to enjoy the fuck out of it. Otherwise, stop it, right? And if you give yourself the permission to enjoy it and you don't chastise yourself, you have more of a propensity to go, you know what? I'm better than this. Or, it's just not making me feel good. Oh, these 5-day hangovers? Yeah, I got better shit to do, right? So
I like that a lot.
At least that's, the philosophy that's worked for me. When I was in the Andes doing San Pedro with San Pedro shaman, and I had like 4 cups. Holy shit, I'm always looking for an enlightenment. Whenever, I set those Vipassana courses. They're like 10 days in silence. They're like incredibly grueling. And I kept on going back for more. But with the shamans, it's just like, oh, let me try and get enlightened this, tonight, right? Trying to drink as much ayahuasca as I can. I remember one time I was in the Amazon, and I was drinking ayahuasca, and I think I puked it up pretty quick. And I went, like within the first 30 minutes or so, and I went back to the shaman and I said, yeah, give me another dose. And I don't think I was done puking, and I got it in my mouth. It was halfway down my esophagus, and I puked again, like while it's all in my mouth and stuff. And it went into my nose, and the DMT came out of my eyes. It was like, holy shit, like sparkles right out of my eyes. And so I think something about my body just didn't want it in, and I just kept on trying to, drink it. I was like, I paid money to come down to the Amazon. I'm going to get my money's worth.
Yeah.
And so, so when I was in the Andes, we were drinking San Pedro, and the shaman, kept offering cups, and I was like, yeah, I'll go for another one. And almost towards the morning, the sun was coming up, he offered another cup, and I was like, fuck it, I'll do another one. He had this other brew that had a snake in it, and I was like, yeah, I'll try that too. Give it to me all.
Yeah.
And so so the sun came up. I had 4 cups of San Pedro in me, and the sun came up. The ceremony was over. It was a long ceremony, like 12 hours. And so and the medicine didn't really kick in until afterwards. And I came home, and my wife was just waking up, and the baby was there, and she wanted to get butter or something for her food. And so I said, go down to the store. She wanted to go down into town. So she went down there and left me with the baby. And the fucking medicine started kicking in, man. And I was in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, and the mountains started breathing, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And my son started crying, and I had him on the backpack, right? And I'm like fucking tripping. I'm tripping my balls off. And my son was on the backpack and he was crying, and I was just like, holy shit. And I hadn't drank in like 2008, about 8 years. I hadn't had a drink, and I wasn't smoking at the time. And I went down to the bar and I got 2 beers because I had to calm my nervous system, right? Because I was almost on the borderline of freaking out, to deal with my son, and the mountains are breathing. And I went down there and it calmed my nervous system completely. I had 2 beers. It was like I went from 0 to hero immediately, and I was drinking double fisted again, right? And so I pounded those 2 beers, and I didn't have a drink for another 2 or 3 years later. And I realized in that moment that all substance has purpose, right? What do you need it for in the moment? When I was younger and I was drinking and partying, whether you call it trauma or not knowing who I am or being in a shitty business, it was robbing my soul. That was my way. That was my way of self-medicating myself, of surviving or getting along in that time period. And I know there's plenty of people in society that wants to look down at people on addictions, and we still do this, even though the cities are flooded with homeless people that are trying to self-medicate, and then they get fucked up on these pharmaceutical drugs, fentanyl and OxyContin, and then we marginalize them. But addiction's real. I just got back from Mexico doing Iboga, which they use for heroin addiction. It's the African bush medicine, and the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. And it cleans the receptor sites. It cleans the opiate receptor sites, and we use those for pain inside our body endogenously. And also, they got a lot of research. 360 Navy SEALs, I think it was Stanford, and there was a noticeable, measurable. They got much better. 360 Navy SEALs PTSD.
Wow.
Right. And so I went down there. I've gone down to a couple of these centers, Rhythmia in Costa Rica and Beyond in Cancun. Beyond does Ibogaine. And funny enough, the guy that started Rhythmia in Costa Rica, Jerry, he was on pills and made a shit ton of money, and he used to just like to fuck chicks and basically make money, right? Yeah. This is coming from him, not my interpretation of him. And so, but this guy was all jacked up on pills, and he was an asshole. And he would get into fist fights at Nobu in Malibu, right? That's the type of asshole he was. And he shipped himself out there to work at Passages, the addiction clinic. And if you know anything about these state-run addiction clinics, they use pharmaceutical drugs. So they get you on Suboxone.
For sure.
The things that rob
Quit one addiction, get on another.
Exactly. And they're $90,000 a month. So he took Dr. Jeff, who was the clinical director, the medical director, and he goes, he came to Passages, and he didn't make it to Passages. Instead, he went and got fucked up at Nobu. And then Passages and Dr. Jeff, they have, I don't know if they've got what do they call those? Investigator. Anyways, they found him in a hotel room. And they came, you paid for Passages, we're bringing you to Passages. And he went there, and I think he did some time there, but he told Dr. Jeff, he goes, "You work for me, motherfucker."
Wow.
And Dr. Jeff is like from East LA and a really cool guy. And he's been around the block, and he's an MD. And so he ended up working for Jerry, and he was on the payroll for a couple of years. And they were trying to find a clinic or somehow to heal him, heal Jerry. He was addicted to pills, OxyContin and alcohol, and just being an asshole. And so Jerry finally found Iboga with this Bwiti shaman from Africa that was living in Costa Rica. And they had a pretty picture of a pool, and the website looked all great. When he got there, the pool had mold in it, and he had to be on the floor and take this Ibogaine, or it wasn't Ibogaine, it was Iboga. So the two differences is Ibogaine is a derivative. It's a much smaller pill form. It's a extract, if you will. And the Iboga is just like shrub dust or dirt, like herbs, and you eat it and it makes you puke, and just like ayahuasca, but different. And so he wrote a book called Shit the Moon Said. So he ended up eating this Iboga with the shaman, and he ended up on the moon, stuck in the moon. And the moon told him all sorts of stuff. You're not to use Iboga, you're to use ayahuasca. And so he built Rhythmia as an ayahuasca center. Ayahuasca and breath work. 2 nights of breath work, bookend with 4 nights of ayahuasca. And they brought the Colombian shamans with the Yahe ayahuasca, which is very powerful ayahuasca. And it's a 5-star center. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. I went down and did an experience there, and I may go back there and teach. And so that's the funny story about Iboga and ayahuasca. And then I went to a center, which is again a 5-star, but Ibogaine and Iboga has cardiac implications. So you have to monitor the heart. And it's very important, especially if you're an addict and you're not healthy anyways. The heart has to be monitored. And so the facilities, it's unclassified in Mexico, and there's multiple facilities down there. But they have a medical doctor, and they have, I think there were 38 nurses on staff that would come in, 24 hours a day. And they would sleep with you in the clinic for 12 hours. They wouldn't sleep. They would be on staff. And when you were actually getting administered the medicine. And then it only houses 7 people.
Wow.
And so, but I witnessed miracles. I was in there with a venture capitalist, a guy who was 38 years old. He'd been on pills. Well, he quit alcohol, and then he got on Vicodin, and he was doing like 60 pills a day.
Wow.
He told me. And, that was killing his liver. He gained weight. And within 24 hours, he had no side effects whatsoever. He was off the pills. And he actually went home early. Something happened with his wife. But super high powered. The thing about that is, and why I work with some of these centers, is because they're very interested in bringing holistic coaching on the back end. They have some of it baked into their curriculum, but also they need nutrition. We need nutrition because if the minerals aren't there, you're not going to, your glands and organs aren't going to function optimally, and you're not going to have that serotonin, that dopamine, the melatonin that allows you to sleep, the testosterone that makes you feel strong. And so, your biochemistry will get out of whack.
Yeah. Yeah, talk to me about like the ayahuasca and who is that for in your opinion? Like, because I've looked into it, right? I was telling you before the show, like I did, I've been going on a dive, right? Like I went and did the Joe Dispenza retreat, like the advanced retreat, right? And that was really cool, eye-opening, and I've done a lot of work over the years, nothing like you, obviously, but I'm definitely headed in that direction, right? And I've looked into just different stuff, right? Like I was even thinking about going to the Hoffman process. I don't know if you've heard about that. They just do, it's just like inner work on your inner child, all that crap, right?
Right.
But then I looked into the ayahuasca. My fiance was telling you before. What was the name of the company that we looked into? She told you.
Soltara.
That one. Yeah. And you were talking about it. So like who is that for? If somebody's watching right now, right? Like I was telling you before the show, I said I want to do it, but I don't know if now's the right time for me.
Yeah.
Like is that a thing? Like it, do you have to be in the right mindset? Because I did, in full transparency,
100% right mindset.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I did shrooms when I was a kid, right? Yeah. Just being an idiot. I didn't do it for any medical benefit. And I had a terrible trip, and this was, 12, 15 years ago when I did that. But if you're curious how I do anywhere from 1 to 2 wholesale deals every single day of my life without co-wholesaling or splitting deals with other people, I actually put together a free case study for you to go ahead and watch, breaking down exactly how I'm able to do it. All you got to do is go to www.flippinsimple.com/learn to check it out. I ate like 5 grams of mushrooms or something at the time. I was like 17 years old, and you talked about like the mountains moving, dude. Like the palm trees were following me, and I was walking my dog at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I remember, and I'm like, and ever since then, I'm freaked out. I I have that experience, you know, and ever since then, I mean, I've smoked weed maybe a couple of times. Every time I have a bad, you know, I feel out of control, you know. So I'm curious as to your thought on that with the ayahuasca and all that.
Yeah. So let me go broad on that because there's a lot to talk about that. First of all, set and setting is huge, right? Set and setting. You want to be in the right mindset. You know, psychedelics are going to open you up to the spirit world. They're going to unveil they're going to dismantle the veil that we have between here and the molecules that are, you know, the energy that's being exchanged between us. And so it's going to dissolve boundaries. It's going to dissolve the veil of illusion, if you will. And so, so you want to be in the right mindset. So like people will come home, they'll have a huge awakening and then they'll come home and then nobody else had an awakening but you. And then they got to go fit into their job, right? And if you're holding a family together or something like that, that might not be the best move, right? Because you don't have an exit plan to come back when you get, you can't just quit your day job, right? That's what I recommend with people is don't quit your day job, you know, right away. Integration is critical. You know, ayahuasca, psychedelics is only going to be 50% of the work. Okay, what did you learn? All right, let's integrate that. You know, are you being, you know, a dishonest person? Are you being, you know, deceptive? Are you cheating in your relationship? You know, and you're telling yourself all these stories, you'll get very clear if that's the life you want to lead and live. And then you have to integrate that information, which is a process. Same thing, you know, maybe I'm overweight, or I'm not sleeping properly, or I'm in a job that I hate, right? And so don't come home and quit your job immediately if you have huge responsibilities, but start working towards what you do want. That's another thing that the psychedelics can help you with. Also, the trip that you had on mushrooms when you're younger, let's go back to set and setting.
Sure.
If you
Terrible set and setting.
If you didn't have intention, if you're like, wow, I'll just take 5 grams, see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my buddy, horrible set and setting, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you probably can't hurt yourself if you take a bunch of that stuff and you're out in the woods, right? Paul Stamets, I was talking to him one time, and he's like, yeah, your dog and a fire, and you're set. You can't hurt yourself, really. And so, but if you're in the house and you're trying to play video games and you're on the phone and you know, you're not, you're trying to live your regular life, just kind of fucked up on hallucinogenics, that can be probably detrimental, and the palm trees are going to come chasing you.
Yeah, which is what happened. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you're not going to know how to compute that because, 5 grams is the hero's dose. So, or at least that's where the hero's dose starts. And so you're going to have a huge experience, and it's not going to be like regular life. You're not going to be able to reason as much and make sense out of it. And so in psychedelic journeys, you're not really supposed to. It's supposed to open you up to all possibilities and all potential. And so I think set and setting is very important. Setting your intention. You know, my intention, you know, for ayahuasca and going to Peru for the first time back in 2006 was to open up my heart, connect with the divine feminine. The Amazon rainforest, the earth is the divine feminine. The sensuality of the women and the children down there, which is the feminine. It was so amazing because we live up here, and I think child abduction is like a big thing. And I didn't have cousins and nephews and nieces, so I was never surrounded with children. And the children of the Amazon rainforest, they come right up to you. They sit right on your lap. And I was so amazed at that. And that's actually the impetus that wanted me to start a family, was seeing that beauty in humanity, right? And it wasn't long after I came back from the Amazon that I met the woman and started a family with her. And I wasn't in a relationship or anything before I went down there. So you can see the beauty of what happened. I was sober. That was the other thing I was going to say. You started studying with Joe Dispenza. The fact that you have a good meditation practice or some kind of spiritual ballast in your life, that is the basis, I do believe, for doing psychedelics,
Sure.
right? If you're going to go deeper. It's also been said that you can, one night of psychedelics can be like 10 years of therapy. And sure enough, right?
Yeah.
So you got something that's bothering you, it's been deep inside your soul. Maybe it lives in your solar plexus by unmetabolized neuropeptides, I do believe is the science behind that. Stuff could just be like, you just don't feel well. And you take the psychedelics and you're like, wow, I need to forgive my mom, or, my dad wasn't that bad of a guy. And, or this happened or that happened. And now I can make sense of my life. And then you come out of that experience and you can process it more. Maybe you can process it with your therapist, or you can just start, losing that weight that you wanted to lose, getting really clear, like, let's stop bullshitting on myself, right? I don't like the way I look in the mirror. Okay, so let's start implementing. So that's what psychedelics can give you. But if you do them wrong, in the wrong, set and setting, a lot of people are doing the ayahuasca and the psychedelics, in circles in the United States of America. The cities are very dense. So you're going to get all that psychic density, especially if you're doing it in something like Los Angeles. My mentors in the Amazon, they said, there's good shamans that go all around the world, but if you want to do a miraculous ceremony, come to the Amazon. And so, and the plants, he would say that they're regional, they're jealous, right? And so they don't want a bunch of mixing. And I've seen a lot in the cities where they'll mix different medicines. It's almost like a party. They'll call it a ceremony, but it's like a party. J.P. Sears did a great video on it back in the day.
I bet.
And so, so a lot of mindfulness around that, so you can navigate it. It's not child's play. Ayahuasca is the most powerful spiritual entity that I've ever experienced. The Iboga and the Ibogaine, it was more like a computer program. It was going for like hours. It was arduous, very arduous. And actually, the Bwiti music is like that. It reminds me of like a chicken peck, like a hen peck. And there's auditory hallucinations as well, because at one point, my meditation teacher showed up, and I was like, hey, that playlist that you had, did you sample SN Goenka? And they're like, no, there's no samples in that. And so, and my meditation teacher used to say, as it is, not the way you like it to be, right? Because you meditate on what is, not the fantasy of the way you want it or what happened in the past or what you wish for the future, as it is, because that's what's always going on. Sure. And sure enough, that popped up in the middle of probably at least 8 hours. And I was like, wow, that was such a trip. So that was living in my consciousness, and they just pulled that file up. And since then, I've been processing that and what it means to me, which was very powerful. Because I spent so many years studying with SN Goenka and practicing that meditation in silence, which can be very, I wouldn't call it psychedelic, but the one thing I liked about the Vipassana meditation retreats, and I recommend everybody that's listening, please go and research that and see if it resonates with you, because that will definitely move mountains. It felt like a truckload, like a tractor trailer truckload of just stuff came off of me.
Wow.
In fact, my femur popped out from my hip socket at one point. I had so much back pain too, and my shoulder released at one time. I mean, you're sitting there for hours a day, 10 days in a row. And so the literal physical manifestation of whatever my mind was tying my bodies in knots was released.
Wow.
And so again, the spiritual ballast will help you with your psychedelic journeys. Set and setting's very important. And then for you, the timing will be right, and you'll know when it's right because you'll be drinking the ayahuasca.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't let it ruminate in your mind whatsoever. When the time is right, you'll be there.
I love that. Yeah. Talk to me a bit about balance and entrepreneurship. You talked a little while ago about like there's a purpose for every substance in it. And the way that I almost interpret that is that there's a season. Like we go through life and we have seasons of life, right? And you kind of talked about that a lot. Well, just in your journey. I mean, like just quite literally hearing your journey. Obviously, you've gone through seasons of life, and I've been through seasons of life. And I talk about that a lot on the show and off the show, like, you know, you can't be like, you follow Ed Milet. Have you ever heard of Ed Milet?
I know who he is, yes.
So he talks about, like, there's these pillars of life, right? Spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationally, financially. And you can't be a 10 in every area at the same time in a particular season.
Correct.
Like, in one season, you might be a 9 in your relationships, but you're a 3 physically or spiritually or whatever, you know? So how... first of all, what is your thought on that? Like, can some, you know, take a listener, a viewer, a watcher, maybe they're my age, maybe they're 30, who knows, but they're trying to work toward a better future. Is it linear? I mean, or is it going to be seasons of life?
Yeah, I don't think anything's linear, actually. And I try and live my life as intuitive as possible because of that reason. And the Matrix doesn't like that. Right? They want you to do email. I don't do email. They want you to do paperwork. I hate paperwork. Actually, I need to start saying I love paperwork because the more I say it, the more I got to do. So paperwork serves its purpose, and there has been some good benefits that paperwork has brought me a lot of money. So let's just be fair and honest. And so let me explain it like this. So we live in a dualistic paradox, yin and yang. How do you know up if you don't know down?
Sure.
The Tibetan book of living and dying says, how do you know the heights of joy if you don't know the depths of pain? And so there's no getting away from, we have a light and a shadow side of it. Which wolf are you feeding, right? That you can use that parable. And so all the ancient sages have said, walk the middle path, the razor's edge, stay balanced, right? And the meditation that I study, Vipassana, is all about equanimity. So whatever you're dealing with, try and be as neutral and equanimous as possible. The reason I study so much of that, because I'm not that equanimous.
Yeah.
And that's I've been very reactive most of my life. And so that's why that work really resonates with me. And so all knowledge is knowledge of self. So the more you can understand about yourself and or whatever knowledge or books that you read, you have to be able to apply that into your lifestyle and into your biology or your psychology. Because if it doesn't live there, then it has no ballast in your reality. Right? If it doesn't live inside of a human being, so for example, if someone's strength training program or their diet paradigm or their way of making money or selling real estate works for them, but you haven't been able to apply it, do the Bruce Lee application, right? Study with everyone, right? Because you can learn something from the bum in the street, right?
Sure. Yep.
You can, intuitively, I can pick up like, oh, okay, I can understand that a little bit better. Study from everyone, take what's useful, discard the rest, make it your own.
Yeah, treat it like a buffet table. Take what you like, leave what you don't.
Right. And so, and work towards, mastery of whatever you're going to apply, right? I like the martial arts analogy as well. Punch, block, kick. Just because I told you that doesn't make you a black belt, right? You may have to go and apply that 10, 15, 20, 50,000 times, right? And then you get your black belt. And so, but these are applications of the basics. That's replication of the basics, application of the basics. This is what I teach with holistic health and to all my students is just the constant. People want the fancy, where's the biohack? Where's the tool? Biohack is another marketing gimmick, right? There's no hacking. There's sleep, right? You got to get good sleep. You need hydration, right? Very important. You know, what type of hydration? Well, you want good minerals in there. You want it to be bioavailable and low surface tension and as pure as possible, right? Nutrition can be said the same thing. Breathing mechanics. You want to optimize overall breathing mechanics so that you can have optimal cellular respiration and you have a good metabolism, right? It's functioning optimally. And so, but again, these are simple, right? Like golf, hit the ball in the hole, right? That very simple principle, right? That doesn't make you Tiger Woods. So you may have to pay attention to your breathing mechanics a little bit. Maybe you tape your mouth shut a little bit. Maybe you go up to Sedona and you go to the spring and you get, pure spring water. You do that a little bit. You test it into your body. You eat only organic food. You test that in your body, right? This is what the ancient sages say. You need food. You need minerals, not what the technicians and the marketing crew and the scientism says, you know, oh, the glyphosate's no problem. It's doesn't affect you. You know.
Yeah. Wild. Yeah.
Right? Herbicides, you know, it's a safe levels, right? There are no safe levels, right?
Sure, yeah.
This is poison for the human beings.
Yeah.
And so you know, understanding it beyond the marketing, because you know, business, you know, it's good for business. Let's face it. A lot of these things are good for business. I got off track a little bit.
You're fine.
Where were we?
Well, you kind of answered it. I mean, it was the idea that it isn't linear, right? Like you can't get from here to the future on a linear track. And that was really my question of like, are there going to be ups and downs, and are you going to go, you know, you might get like for me, you know, I'll go a season of life and I'll be like you know, you said, I mean, a little while ago you talked about, you know, I would go for 3 years without a cup of coffee, and then you fall off. You have a cup of coffee, you're like, oh my gosh, right? And then maybe you
the pendulum swings both ways.
Yeah. So so you did in a roundabout way answer my question, and that is, there isn't such thing as perfect linearism to the future, to the goal, right? Like I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna try, and then I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fall short. I'm gonna go in the valley, and then I'm gonna be on the mountaintop, and then I'm gonna go back to the valley. Like there, and then eventually you'll have an awakening, or you'll end up in the goal or the target or wherever it is that you're trying to go. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, but once you reach the goal, especially for entrepreneurs, that's not good enough. It's like the Dostoevsky quote, right? We want more drama.
It's true. Very true.
So I like to say, we never really arrive, especially spiritually. We can never get on our spiritual high horse. You know, oh yeah, I'm so enlightened right now. And right, we're always growing. We're always evolving. But I do like the razor's edge. You know, yin and yang, understanding that really good, masculine, feminine. Study natural law, the law of gender, the law of cause and effect, the law of correspondence, as above, so below. How do we expect the world to be healthy or sustainable if we're not healthy and sustainable? 70% of the American people are obese or overweight. That's what my book cover represents. It represents balance. It represents as above, so below. And so we've got to get our act together as a species if we want to see balance. Otherwise, our children are going to be eating Soylent Green. And that's probably out of your pay grade because that came out in the 70s. But Soylent Green for everybody, it was a dystopian movie with Charlton Heston. Soylent Green is people.
Talk to me a bit about diet. You know, we talked about a lot, obviously, your book cover, you know, for people watching, you know, you can see I'm holding the book. How old are you in that picture right there?
53.
53. You've got, I mean, you're pretty shredded, right? Get a 6-pack, maybe an 8-pack. Talk to me about diet. Like what should people be doing? There's so much conflicting information out there. I mean, I'm one end of the spectrum. You've got guys like Liver King, right? Who are like, you know, doing their thing. And then on the other end,
well, let's be correct with Liver King. He's lying to his people, and he's on $12,000 worth of steroids every month.
Sure. Okay. So, and then you were a vegan for a long time.
Yes.
Right. And I watched a piece of content from you that talked about you were vegan, and then you were like, you realized like, wait, whoa, like that's not it either, right? So, but there's people. I mean, I watched a documentary on Netflix a couple of years ago, all about veganism, right? And I mean, it's so compelling when you watch it. You're like, oh my God, right? But then you click over one episode and it's like all about meat eaters and the opposite of that. And it's so compelling, right? I mean, like how do people know the truth? Like, what's the truth?
Well, you can always study the history of the spear, right? There's some truth there, right? Anthropologically. I like to say, it's not what you eat, it's the quality of what you eat. The quality of your food is directly related to the quality of life you live. So with that said, wild, biodynamic, or Oregon Tilth organic certified, quality assurance organic certified, USDA, then commercial, then GMO. This is the scale that I base everything on. I've got a good video on my playlist on my YouTube channel that goes through about 36 minutes of the nuances and caveats of of nutrition. Because yes, it is a minefield, and everybody wants to sell you their diet paradigm, including the liver king. And I think liver is great, but he's not eating liver; he's shooting drugs. You know, and so let's just call a spade. But liver is great, right? We used to eat nose to tail, and the warriors would get the heart and the liver first, and the testicles, right? Testicles got plenty of testosterone. I made quite a few videos back in the day, paleo superfoods. I think I labeled it on my YouTube channel, eating, raw bison testicles. And so they're phenomenal, right? For organs are phenomenal. Raw organs are phenomenal from healthy animals, right? Grass-fed. I think North Star Bison is a good company. Grass-fed, pasture-raised, Polyface Farms, Joel Salatin, he's got some mail order stuff, and you can go out and visit his farm 24/7, 365, he told me.
Wow.
Come on the farm anytime you want. See transparency, see authenticity. He was in the movie Food, Inc.
Really?
In 2007, I do believe. Joel Salatin, Polyface Farms. And so really get down with regenerative farming, with biodynamic farming, soil. Look, I think some people can be a vegan. What's his name? Rodney Lavoie Jr. He drinks his urine and puts it all over his body and eats mango and coconut, and the guy looks like a stud. I mean, he's really yoked, but his sunlight and grounding and nature and urine, like that's doing whatever it's doing for him. Look at his results. He's vegan. But I think he's got all this other special sauce going on over here that he can actually pull it off for his lifestyle. I don't know how long and sustainable it'll be, but he's one of the healthiest, like fruit-eating kind of minimalist kind of guys that I know out there. He's one of the healthiest guys out there. Also, my friend Crone Gracie, he was at least vegetarian for quite a while. I know Nate Diaz and his brother were, and they were all hanging out together. And he's since moved to Montana, Crone Gracie, and I saw he shot an elk last year. And so he's obviously changing up his mentality. And he was eating, I think, some fish as it was. He's been training jiu-jitsu since he was a child, and he was fighting in the UFC. And so I think extreme athletes could probably eat cardboard and make usage of it, right? Because their body is it's a machine. They're moving. So you could probably just throw vegan food at that all day long, and it'll probably work for you. And you see a lot of these types of vegans working out. Also, I believe these endurance athletes. Let me say that about the vegans. I think if you're an endurance athlete, you might have more of a propensity to pull it off. And then I do believe Mercola. I read one of his articles a while back, and 6% of the population have a propensity towards vegetarianism or veganism. I think it was more along the lines of vegetarianism, because I think the Indians, they are pretty much vegetarian. They do, I think, ghee and maybe some milks or something like that. And so maybe some eggs. And so I think some people can pull it off, and you see it in their tissues. Like, you look healthy.
Hey, real quick, I don't know if you know, but I actually wholesale real estate nationwide, and I have buyers all over the nation looking for incredible deals. So if you're a wholesaler and you locked up a deal and you're struggling to find a buyer, I would love to partner with you up on it, and I would love to help you sell it. All you have to do is text me 480-418-5339 and just let me know that you have a deal that you need help selling. Again, the phone number is 480-418-5339. Let me know that you have a deal, you want me to bring a buyer. Somebody on my team will reach out to you right away, and we will help you get it sold. Now let's just go ahead and get back to the show.
You look healthy. I can tell when people are healthy. Your eyes are sparkling, your hair is shining, your skin looks good, right? And so I don't care what you eat, but if you've got pimply face and you're pudgy or you're anorexic, don't try and sell me your diet paradigm. And I witnessed this for many years. I was in LA, which was ground zero for the raw vegan movement, 2010, 2011. My friend David Wolf, well, he's an acquaintance anyways, he was running that whole scenario. and his assistants and all these girls following him. They were either wafy, nobody home, like greasy hair and pimples all over their face. And then next thing you know, the pendulum swings the both ways. And a lot of his flock started drinking raw milk. They had to get healthy. They had to rebuild their tissues. So, it's malnourishment. They're not getting the B12. I've talked to a lot of women. They were on that as well. Then they had children, and then the children, they couldn't understand why the children were getting so many cavities. And it was, again, the mineralization. And so I've heard a lot of stories over the years. So, my objective with helping people with nutrition is stay balanced as much as possible. Look in the mirror, look in the toilet bowl. For me, those are the best diagnostics. I know all these companies out there, they want to sell all sorts of, lab services, and right on the other side of that is $10,000 worth of supplements too.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to send, get this lab test, this DNA test. How about the fucking mirror? How about the toilet bowl, guys? Can we go right back to basics? If anything is working, there's your answer. How good of a bowel movement, are you taking each and every day? And then it's going to shine in the mirror, right? You're going to look at your girth. You're going to see whatever is there. And so when it comes to nutrition, quality is everything. I juice. Some people, they don't like juicing. Medical medium's all about juice. Everyone's going to have a different perspective. I like bone broth. The vegans don't like bone broth. There's histamines in that. Okay, great, man. Splitting hairs all day long.
For sure.
Go back to what the Koreans eat. 5,000-year-old technology, right? They eat a little of this, a little of that, some fermented foods, some white rice. I lived in I was jumped into the Korean community by my ex-wife.
Yeah.
And their diet's amazing, right? Their diet is super amazing. And my father-in-law came to Santa Monica and he goes, "Oh my God, Americans are so fat." And I'm like, "Dude, this is California. People aren't fat here."
Yeah. Well, 2/3 are obese or overweight in America, statistically.
70%.
Right.
Obese or overweight.
Which is wild.
In America. Yeah, it was 62% when I started Certified Health Nut.
Wow.
And that's exponential growth. So my driver of why I do what I do and all my antics online and is because that's exponential growth in a short amount of time. 70% is close to 100%. And I'm part of the 100%.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm part of that 100%. And so are my kids. If I don't do something about the soil, you see what the World Economic Forum's trying to do, getting these celebrities to eat bugs on camera. I'm not eating no fucking bugs, man. You eat your fucking bugs.
Yeah.
For
sure.
I like some tomahawk steak.
Are there, out of curiosity, while we're on this subject, are there places for people watching and me and because I've been getting really into. I just did are you familiar with Prenuvo? The Prenuvo scan, the full body MRI scan, just cash only. I'm getting more into. So I just did a Prenuvo scan. I went to Silicon Valley literally a week ago, and I did a Prenuvo. You pay cash. It's not insurance, nothing like that. And they do a full body MRI scan. They look at your whole body. They tell you, they scan for like 500 different things. They can tell you if you have tumors and aneurysms before you even would know. $2,500 is what I paid. Anyways, point is, I'm trying to get healthy, right? Are there places that a person should shop? You talk about like eating quality food. I mean, should I be going to Whole Foods? Should I be going to Sprouts? I mean, where do people need to go?
I like to support natural grocers here in Arizona because I like their ethic and where they came from. I think she had a health scare back in the day, 60 years ago. They're having their 60th anniversary. The prices are the best. I think everything in the produce section is organic. So there's no mystery like you walk into Whole Foods. I mean, the quality in Whole Foods is, hit or miss for sure. And so let me say this. Do the best you can. Source the best organics that you can. Work with mail order. North Star Bison ships. I think they ship fresh meat. Find local butchers. I know in California, and there's one in Arcadia here that has legitimate grass-fed, grass-finished butchers. Support those types of people. Regenerative farming. Find a source with raw milk. I get mine from Mennonite or Amish here in town. You can get it from Sprouts, though, as well. Sprouts has kefir and raw milk available. Sprouts is another good company as well. Whole Foods, definitely for the convenience. They're everywhere. But remember, you have to shop on the outer aisles. The perimeter is where the food is, in the perimeter, not in the center of the store. That's where all the processed food is. And so, so shop on the perimeter and then read your labels, organic. Just because it's at Whole Foods doesn't mean it's clean, doesn't mean it's high quality. Do the best you can. Source the best without going neurotic. Always the neurosis, because you can poison your own food with the stress hormones in your body. What about this? What about that? I studied with Don Tolman, the Whole Food Cowboy, back in the day. And he had a lot of stuff from the Egyptian mystery schools, and he really understood language, and really interesting fella, Don Tolman. And lost what I was going to say. Oh, shoot. So, oh, God. Anyways, we're on quality of food.
Yeah.
Do the best you can without going neurotic. I'll remember that Don Tolman thing. Do the best you can. Source the best. Plan ahead. When you travel, pack your snacks. I think Epic, somebody told me Epic just got bought by Pepsi or one of those big things. I don't know if it's true. Paleo Valley, maybe it was. I'm not sure, but Paleo Valley is supposed to be another good company. You know, get your meat snacks, meat sticks, Tonka bars. The Indians used to sell those, and I think they still do with cranberry and bison. Get those when you travel. Boil some eggs. Take them on the plane. Call around before you get to your destination and find out where the clean food is. I work with Paul Chek and the Chek Institute, and usually if you find a Chek practitioner, they'll tell you where the clean food is in their neck of the woods. Here I used to go to Sante. They closed down, Farm to Table. True Food is pretty okay, and Tokaya is pretty okay as well. There's not really a lot of great stuff. You can usually go to most any good steakhouse and find some legitimate stuff, although most of it will probably be corn-fed. You can still get bison steaks usually. You can get duck, and sometimes you can get elk. And bison you can't mess with. So if you can find bison, they don't inject them with antibiotics. And,
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so bison's pretty much untouchable. I forget why that law is.
Yeah, why? I wonder why.
I'm not sure. And so so a good steakhouse, but eventually just call it a day. The Don Tolman thing is your body is 70% water. Your brain's like 90%. If you're dehydrated, drink fucking tap water. Your body needs, water.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to drink tap water. I'm saying for a survival mechanism, don't be so neurotic that you can't have a sip of, like it's 110 degrees out here in the valley.
Yeah.
And you're outside for some reason or another, or walking your dog or something like that, and there's a fountain there, and you're getting a headache or something headache is too late for dehydration, by the way. But if it comes down to survival, drink the fucking tap water, right? Don't be like, oh no, it's gonna the fluoride's gonna calcify my pineal gland, which is true, but just don't make a habit out of it, right? Try and source the best you can without going
crazy
with neurotic.
Yeah,
exactly. So plan ahead. Make sure shop ahead. Don't pack your house with packaged crap. And cook it. Sharing a meal. I did a bunch of research. I had black mold exposure, and then I had brain fog, and I had some challenges. One of my businesses went upside down, and I did a lot of research on psychology and the brain, and I read in Psychology Today, they said 7 out of 10 of their top 10 recommendations can be served with sharing a meal with friends. So sharing a healthy meal with friends. So eat with other people. Cook, barbecue at home. I mean, barbecues are always fun anyways. People like that, just minus the alcohol.
Get rid of that if you can. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so sharing, get used to cooking. Cooking is, it's a thing. I think men and women have kind of lost our way for the almighty dollar. Like we kind of got sidetracked. But I think if we can come back to the kitchen, the family, family first, our traditional roles, men and women can cook, but the fact of the matter is get together and have that meal with the family. Family's super important, and the food around that family is important. And the more you can spend time on that part of your lifestyle, everything else is going to pay dividends, because there's been a lot of studies, people at the end of their life, it's not the toys, it's not the money, it's not really what you achieved, it's the value of the relationships that you've had. And most people on their deathbed, all they want is more hours with their family, with their loved ones.
So true.
And in my book, I talk about forgiveness as well, and relationships and your thinking process. Gratitude and forgiveness, can bring so many gifts into your life. These elements can't be underestimated. And I think, this goes hand in hand with just living an honest life. Like, you can make so many less mistakes if you're just an honest person instead of, all these, fast sales. I see that, pitfalls, especially with internet marketing and stuff. People are trying to hustle each other, and that's, that's steeped in dishonesty. If you're just honest, you're going to have a better time later in life, because once the pizzazz goes out, once all the bling goes out, your health and your word is the only thing you have, on this planet.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
And your soul's going to take that with you, your experience here.
Yeah.
And so don't wait till you're older. It's good that you're 28, that you're wrapping your head around this, because then you just bake it into your lifestyle. It's all non-negotiables.
Game over.
I go to bed at this time. My room is dark. All the negativity's pulled out of my room. My electrical fields in my room are dialed in. You got the capital to do it.
For sure.
Dial in the electrical fields. Turn off your breakers. It feels like the woods when you sleep with the breakers off. Bare minimum, turn off the Wi-Fi.
For sure. I love that.
Get the phone out of the room.
So awesome. I've been doing a lot of research on that. I want to talk really quick, just a little bit about a couple of funny things that people might find funny, but I think they're interesting, right? And that is like sunning your butthole, and then also
we love that one.
Woo! And then and the urine thing, drinking the urine. You talked about a couple of other people are big into that. The guy that you were talking about a little while ago,
Rodney Lavoie Jr.
Rodney Lavoie Jr. I believe you've done a decent amount of that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Almost 2 decades.
Okay, so talk to me about the benefits of both. I even saw an ad recently about caffeine in the butt.
Oh, well, yeah, that's probably my friend Josh Mason. He's the detox dude. He was poisoned with amalgam fillings in his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh is a good guy. His marketing's a little...
I will say, if you're scrolling and you see his ad...
He's probably doing good.
You stop.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he has to be crushing it, because the intro to that ad, I know exactly what ad you're talking about.
Sticking coffee up my butt.
There you go.
I'm that guy. And so, no, Josh is a good man.
Yeah.
He's a good man. He was being poisoned by his amalgam fillings, and he did ayahuasca and the Amazon and the dieta and stayed down there for months, and he realized he was electrocuting himself because of the amalgam fillings, and he came back to the States, got him pulled out, and then did all the heavy metal detox and everything that he teaches online. And so... it's just the marketing that just bugs me, because anyways, I just pray that I never do deceptive marketing. Not that Josh is doing deceptive marketing. So coffee enemas go right in line with Gerson therapy. Gerson therapy is green juice for terminal cancers, right? Green juicing for stage 4, tumors, this, that, and the other thing. Get the body into autophagy and flood it with minerals, vitamins, and enzymes from pre-digested mineral-rich nutrition, which is juicing. I've been juicing for 33 years. So this is Gerson therapy, Max Gerson. And then you got to get the channels open. So the poop chute, most important channel there is. And so coffee, there's something in coffee and there's a nerve or a valve that goes from the liver to the colon, and it gets stimulated when you put coffee up there, and so the liver will purge as well. So they're very effective in purging the body. I'm not too big on enemas, although they're good, right? Don't get me wrong, they're good, they're useful. It's just I don't want to live on them, right? I want to get my poop chute moving, and it's an out hole, not an in hole. But it is good if you're out of balance and you need that type of help. And so so coffee enemas are real, and wheatgrass enemas. I've done aged urine enemas to great success. Flukes looked like liver flukes came out of my butthole in the toilet bowl. I was like, what the fuck is that? I was like, I didn't eat any beets. And it was like this weird little square jellyfish with a kind of with a thing on the end of it. And somebody told me that was liver flukes. And so aged urine enemas. I mean, it's got a ton of ammonia in it. And my friend that had testicular cancer, and he was a Swedish national. So he lived here, and he went back there for free chemo. They did chemo. He was in his 20s, and the doctors are like, "Oh, the chemo didn't work. We're gonna take out your lymph nodes." The guy was like 28, and he's like, "My lymph nodes? I think I might need those things." And he went home and did a bunch of research and found urine therapy, and looped his urine for, I think, 3 weeks straight. So he fasted on his urine. And he's in my book as well. Dr. P.P. Shivambu, I call him. Shivambu is the ancient Ayurvedic yogic terminology, Sanskrit terminology for urine therapy. And so Dr. P.P. Shivambu, I think they took one of his nuts out. Anyways, he got rid of the cancer, and that was like 10, 15 years ago. He challenged me to a urine fast. I had been drinking my own urine since 2005. I heard it was a health thing or whatever, and I wanted to try it. And I think I was driving to San Francisco, and I didn't want to stop, and so I peed in a cup and I drank it, and I was like, that's not that bad. And I liked the energetic. It's like a hair of the dog. It's like you're a biocomputer, right? You're a complete, intelligent being, right? And then this just came out of you, and you put it right back in, and it's like a diagnostic tool. It's like a hair of the dog. It's like, this is what's going on with you. And now it's like, like if there's too much coffee, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't like that. I can feel things.
You can tell.
I can feel things for sure. It's a diagnostic tool. And so I snort it, I age it, and it's amazing to sunbathe with it.
Really?
And
how long do you age it?
Look at the color of my skin.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Irish, right? And so...
and you're dark.
And I use zero sunscreen.
Wow.
Right? I use zero sunscreen. My sunscreen is my nutrition. So... and I'm not advocating for anybody to do it. I'm just reporting live from
telling
planet
you what
Earth.
You're doing, yeah.
Yep. Troy Casey reporting live. And so this is what I've done for the last 2 decades. Is it right, wrong, or the other way? It's the same thing with veganism. And, okay, have your argument all day long. I'm just over here. This is my experience. And so, and Rodney Lavoie Jr. looks good, for sure. He looks like a stud.
How old is he?
I don't know. I need to get his age, and I'm going to have him on my Instagram pretty soon. But I'm 57. I don't wear sunscreen. Since I've been in the Valley of the Sun, I do like putting the aged stuff on especially on my face. It really helps my face. It's supposed to grow your hair back, as well, and put the color back in your hair. And so it's just anti-aging. So it's got. I heard Rodney last night, and he said there's 4,000 constituents, and 3 haven't even been identified, right? Wow. There's unknown factors. HGH, testosterone, stem cells, minerals, amino acids. And so mostly in the morning, I just use it as a diagnostic tool. I don't chug it like Rodney or Dr. Pee-Pee. And so, and I've been known to drink my aged stuff. Somebody did a documentary on me a couple of years ago, Sky Cowens, and I drank it on there. But the aged stuff is good for the aged urine enemas to clean out the poop chute, open up the channels there, and then the skin. I mean, the other thing is it's electrifying. There's something really special about it. It's very electrifying, and then I feel, I've never taken steroids, but it feels like steroidal or steroids would.
Yeah.
Like I can feel a pump in it. And so, and I just love getting the sun on. I love the color. It turns my skin. And the more you age it, it doesn't really smell once you get it inside your body. And so I just wash it off as well. And
and you age it for how long? Did you say how long?
Rodney was saying last night that see, I didn't study this. I'm an application guy. Oh, that sounds good, right? That's my Bruce Lee. Oh, sounds good. Let me try it. Let me see how it works. And so, but Rodney was saying that within 3 hours it starts being, it starts fermenting.
Wow.
And so, and I just use it in a big 32-ounce mason jar, and then you can put a napkin with a rubber band over it. It's like a cheesecloth, and it can aerate it, and then that's it'll ferment that way. And then you can I use a mason jar like this, and if you put the top on it, and then it's anaerobic, and it builds different fermentation processes. And so, but I get it out there, and then I put it in the sun, and that bakes in even more energy. And it can be up to 2 months, 3 months, a year. I've had some old stuff as well. And so, and again, I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying I've had some really good experiences with it. And the older I get, I mean, if there is real biohacking out there, I think that you are your own machine. You are your own medicine man, right? Inside, all of our endogenous chemicals are right here. And so I do believe that we are, all-knowing, self-healing mechanisms. We've just gotten so far outside of the boundaries of nature that we've lost our way a little bit. But I think this type of technology has been around before. And so with the butthole sunning, again, this goes back, I think the yogis figured this out too. And perineum sunning, getting sun all over your body is one of the healthiest things. You want to biohack, you want to increase your mitochondrial function, because I think that's the definition of biohacking. So you've got 75 trillion cells in the human body, and the ATP and the mitochondria, these are the energy centers of the cells, right? So jumping in an ice bath and staying in there for 3 minutes gives all 75 trillion cells a workout, right? The blood vessels, everything's like pumping, right? And so when you get out of an ice bath, you feel euphoric. It's like working out all your 75 trillion cells in 3 minutes. So when you're getting sun on the body, my business partner, I went to the Czech Institute with him, and he's a big health and fitness guy. He loves to lift weights, and he's got what is that name of that cookware? The titanium cookware. Everybody should invest in it, though. I think it's Salad Master. Yeah, it's like the best non-toxic cookware out there. Anyways, he travels with his, and he comes over to my house. I just love having him over there because he cooks, right? He cooks all the time. He just slow cook. He'll put meat on there. You don't have to use oil or water in these pans. It'll take it out of the meat or whatever. And you just put it on a slow cook, and it cooks throughout the day. And so he hangs out there, and he's a nude sunbather, and he's been doing this for years. And he tripped me out because we went into triple digits a few weeks ago, and he was here. He stays at my house for months at a time, and he was out there an hour each side. And the stone in my backyard is so hot it'll burn your feet. So he puts a couple towels out there, and he just handles it. I don't know, but he does an hour on both sides, and that is going to that's going to biohack you.
For sure. I can only imagine. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's so fascinating, right? Like, what's crazy to me too is that the more and more and more people like you out in the world that are trying different things and preaching truth and health and life, yet we still went from 62% to 70% obesity, and we're still trending in the wrong direction. I mean, how many more people like you need to be out there talking about it to trend in the other direction? I feel like the information is so readily available to get healthy, eat healthy, work out, do the cold plunge, sit in the sauna, like all the things that we got to do, right, that are healthy. Yet, as a society, as a species, we're going in the wrong direction.
Yes. I mean, this is my job. This is the job of the certified health nut. I'm the court jester. I'm here to get people's attention. by any means necessary. You know, I've been in front of the camera for 33 years. I do believe, I think it's, I heard something recently, like 5%, you know, and do we have 5% of knowledgeable people out there? I mean, that's why I was so turned on with Paul Chek, 2008, beginning of YouTube. You know, you see who's on the internet, young guys on steroids and vegans. That was the health, profile on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then there was fucking Paul Chek, and he blew my mind. He's got this one video, the last 4 doctors you'll ever need, with the shirt off. And the guy's just yoked, and he can deadlift 450 pounds. And I was enamored with him, right? You know, so, and I think I do believe the new commodity is authenticity, and people are going to move towards that. I was talking with some young virtual reality executives or tech people out in LA. There was a psychedelic and tech conference. And one thing I learned is the younger people have a yearning to get away from their phones as well. The virtual reality, they were VR executives, young kids too. It's disconnecting us from our nature, but inside of them, there is more of a yearning to get back to the authenticity, right? The real deal. And these guys are building VR, and this is where the world wants to take us, whether AI is, going to start building machines in the Clone Wars or whatever. But the soul inside the human being, we want that real. We want that authenticity. And so I think moving forward, it's going to be much more of a commodity. Nature as well. Because look at you, you're successful, right? You see what's out there, right? You probably have a nice car, you probably have a nice house, you probably have all the material you can get. But if you don't have access to nature and your soul and your health, then who are you?
Right.
And you're just
question.
You're just one person, but you are waking up and you're connected. The one reason why I like affluent communities like Scottsdale here, I lived in Santa Monica and Venice and LA, is because you have access to people that have any propensity and knowledge towards knowledge. They have the money for the leisure time and or to seek out the professionals and the experts in those fields. And so you can move the needle forward a lot more because the affluent are also the influent, right? And so the influential people. And so the more you get more information, because you have all the toys, right? You get all the toys. Okay, what's next? Well, you're going to start to see, ultimately, especially at your age, we're on this podcast right now, it's all an inside job. All of it is. And we see where technology is leading us. All you have to do is go down into Phoenix, right into Skid Row. LA is turning into that. San Francisco is turning that. So that's what our politics, our business, our unlimited wars, this is what that's all creating. Poisoning of the foods, that people are imbalanced, so they want to self-medicate with either alcohol or drugs or pharma drugs.
Hey, real quick, I don't know if you know, but I have a totally separate YouTube channel that you probably haven't checked out before. And it's just called Austin Zaback. And I've actually started a new series on that channel where I break down wholesale deals, okay? Wholesale deals that we've done in our business. And I show you step by step how we got the deal, how we sold the deal. I break down all the numbers on the deal, and I even show you the HUD of the deal, so you know we're not playing around. Now, I don't know how long you've been following me, but I do anywhere from 1 to 2 wholesale deals every single day. And my goal is to get to 100 deal breakdowns on that YouTube channel. So definitely, if you haven't already, go check it out. I'll link it down in the description below. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and get back to the show.
So, the antidote is what we're doing, moving towards health. And so, and the more you can spread that word, the more you can just be it. Right. There's no spreading word. As a teacher, I can only lead by example.
Yeah. Reporting live from
Reporting
Planet
live from Planet Earth. It's Troy Casey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that line, because it really is just like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Take it, leave it, do whatever you want with it. Try it, don't care. Like, ultimately you care, but like you're not going to force it. I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do.
You can't force it.
Yeah.
And that's why I present it the way I do, because there's plenty of people out there. I don't like the trainers or the nutritionists that are my way or the highway. It's like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. No matter my imbalances will make me balanced.
Sure.
Right? They will correct me. There's just a lot of people on the internet. It's my way or the highway. Hey, this is a way.
Right.
If you can't implement it in your body, it's not going to work for you. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. And so it's just, for me, it's just a big turnoff. And now what we see with the Liver King coming out and that level of deception. I mean, look, those muscles are great, but it didn't come from liver. And liver's great. And that level of muscularity, I could already tell. I knew he was on steroids because I could see his blood pressure. I could see him out of gas, just doing whatever. What is that one walk that he does?
Yeah. He like tugs the thing.
The death walk or the ancestral walk.
Yeah.
Oh, his marketing was stellar, bro. His marketing was the best.
Yeah.
Dude, he went from 0 to 2 million in 2 years.
Right. Yeah, for real. And I watched a lot of people go and do that walk with him. I watched a couple big YouTubers go to his house and do the walk, that weren't on anything like from what I could tell. And they did it with no problem at all,
Right.
But anyways, that's a whole nother conversation, right? Talk to me, I guess, in conclusion here, I know we've been here for at least an hour and 45 or so. I want to get you out of here. I value your time. I know you've got a lot going on. Talk to me about your book really quick. Like where can people buy your book? What do you want to tell the world of people that that haven't read your book? Like, why should they buy your book, and what are they going to learn if they read your book?
Well, again, I can only lead by example. It's not about being ripped at 50 per se. Obviously, eye candy, and people want that. Their high school body, they want that as they get older. So there is an attractive element of that. But ultimately, again, it represents balance. It represents as above, so below. Natural law of correspondence. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we as individuals are not healthy? And so 70% of the American people are obese or overweight. 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically dysfunctional.
Wow.
So these are basics. I wrote it like a novel. There's a lot of stories from my modeling career, working in the Amazon, sobering up, doing the healing work, my DUI in 2016. My relationship with my wife, going through a divorce, it's all in there. But the 9 pillars of health are in there. And those are, in physics, they call them first principles. You can't have one without the other. The human body needs water.
Yeah.
Human body needs sleep. Human body needs movement. These are immutable laws. They're fundamental principles, foundation principles. And the medicine's in there. So I allow the story to propel. A lot of people can read this in one day. It's a good read. It's written like a novel. It starts out with Tupac Shakur in Milan in the men's shows in 1996.
I can't wait to read it. I can't wait.
Yeah. And so it's available on Amazon.com. We optimized the marketing over there. But I really like the hardcover because I made it as a coffee table book. It's a nice piece of eye candy. We have about 500 of them in the warehouse. I think you have to write me on Instagram to get them, and we mom and pop them out to you.
Wow.
And I'll sign it too. And so DM me on IG, just because I've had some challenges getting my website together and all the tech stuff that's going on. And so, but it should be available soon, and it comes with a course as well, an online course where I hiked the tallest mountain in Sedona, and I teach from that perspective. I teach the 9 pillars of health in the field, right? And so, RippedAt50 is available. DM me on Instagram if you want a hardcover. Otherwise, the hardcover collector's edition. Otherwise, it's the paperback's available on Amazon.
Got it. Cool. And then final question for you. If you had obviously you dropped a ton of knowledge on the podcast and the show, and I want to give people an opportunity in a minute to come follow you. Obviously, link everything down below. But if you could tell the world one thing like you had a billboard, right? And everybody in the world could see your billboard. 7.9 billion people, I think now, could all see your billboard. You could tell them all one thing, but that's it. What would you tell them?
I would say be you. And you're going to need your fucking health to do that. Be you, complete your legacy, your purpose, your dream, call it forth from your heart's desire. Use your mind to program the heart's desire, right? The mind is very powerful. Nothing's more powerful than a made-up mind. But the heart is 5 times the strength, electrical field, than the mind. So find out what the heart truly desires and then program the mind to do that. That's your legacy. And there's only one you. You're unique. And so, and God likes novelty. So express that, who you are. Some people like to cook food. Some people like to grow food. Some people like to eat food like me, right? And there's also food critics, right? Food critic television shows, right? So you can literally do anything that you want. Some people like to ride horses. Some people like to take care of horses. Some people like to buy ranches, right? Right? Everyone's a little bit different. We have our little je ne sais quoi, and we all need each other. The world I'm calling forth calls forth with the gift economy. And the gift economy, Ubuntu is the South African Zulu word. It means contributionism. And back to, what we're talking about. The grandmothers love to take care of the children. The children need to be watched by hopefully a family member so the parents can go out and work in their prime, right? These things are all natural contributional elements. And Greg Braden, the scientist that had a near-death experience and now is a big spiritual teacher, he said that for us to evolve, we have to cooperate. And we're in a pretty competitive state. And I like some competition as well, but not to our own detriment. And with the debt slave economy and the fake fiat currencies that we have, it's predatory capitalism. And we're not subsidized, but the elite clubs are, right?
Sure,
and so the pharmaceutical companies are subsidized, the big ags are subsidized, the military industrial complex is subsidized, the media is subsidized. Where's my grant? Last time I checked, Obama bailed out the banks during the 2008 crisis, right? So let's get back to some kind of egalitarian fair shake for all of humanity and call forth the gift economy. I have a President of Planet Earth campaign that I usually run with the presidential elections. And you can find that video on YouTube, President of Planet Earth.
Troy Casey.
Yeah. And so... yeah, I mean, I do believe I saw a vision in the Amazon in 2006, and, humanity makes it, but we definitely need to pull a rabbit out of a hat. I do believe that the last vestiges of freedom are on planet Earth here in the United States of America. The Second Amendment's holding a lot of that into place, and so it's up to us, right? It's up to us to make a difference and change this world. And so... a clarion call out to the men out there, dig deep into your soul and find out what's real, and then go out there and give your gifts and help everyone change the world. That's my mission.
I love that. Phenomenal way to end the podcast. I'll tell you what. Where can people find you? Where do you want them to find you? How can they connect with you? What's the best platform?
Yeah, certifiedhealthnut.com. I've got a new coaching program coming out, Fit and Free, the Legacy Method. Sign up for my email newsletter. Instagram, Certified Health Nut. I'm branded across the internet. I'm on Twitter as Mr. Health Nut. YouTube, TikTok. They got me over on TikTok as well. Certified Health Nut. Come say hi. I'm here to get the world healthy, plain and simple.
I love that. Hey, I really appreciate you being on the show. It was an honor. And man, I can't wait. I hope one day in a couple of years we can sit back down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. If you're still watching, really appreciate you watching. Means the world to me, obviously. Drop a comment down below. Go follow Troy. Check him out, Certified Health Nut. All of his information will be down below. Buy the book. Join one of his programs. Definitely phenomenal interview. If you're listening on any platform, leave a 5-star review if you can. It would mean the world to me. And we'll see you in the next episode.